Is TechyOP the best Roblox Bleach game? There's a new popular Bleach game on the block called TechyOP, and in today's video we'll be seeing if this game is indeed the best Bleach game on the platform. Without further ado, don't forget to like, subscribe. Now let's get straight into this discussion. I want to start with the positive things about TechyOP before we get into anything negative about the game. Exhibit A, the positive side of TechyOP. The best part about TechyOP is the combat. Without the good combat, honestly this game would have been dead on release. The combat mirrors another well-known game, Deepwoken. It does a pretty good job of trying to copy that combat system, but it does indeed have its problems. Also, I'm aware that not every parry system is designed to be like Deepwoken, but in TechyOP the parry system is very weird to say the least. The parrying has a very tight window, so if you ever wonder why parrying is damn near impossible, that's why. Also, in combination with the bad Roblox servers, parrying isn't even useful, which is why people spam flash tips to get out of combos instead of actually trying to parry attack. Another thing I like about TechyOP is the build system, which allows you to create some pretty cool builds in the game and allows you to be diverse from your peers in the game. There are different categories such as speed, Hagura, Kendo, and Keto, which you invest stat points in. Each build has its strengths and weaknesses of course, but some are kind of broken like speed builds, but then again there are tons of broken things in this game. Another thing I like about TechyOP is the Shikai system. Although it is annoying to get, each Shikai has its unique abilities that make most of them pretty viable in a combat situation. Of course, some being better than others, but this still allows for diversity among the players. The only issue with this Shikai system is how expensive the rerolls are and how bad the rates are as well, since majority of the Shikais are 99% commons and the good OP Shikais are 1%. I also really enjoy the PvP raid events this game has, and it's basically different game modes where Soul Reaper, Quincy's, and Hollows battle it out in either capture the flag, free-for-all, gladiator mode, or domination. I really enjoy this because it allows for a proper PvP setting and fun little objectives you must meet, and with the PvP being sort of fun in this game, it really is the best moments you're going to experience in the game. The raid system, although very creative, also has its flaws as well, since the game does a very bad job at balancing teams, so a lot of the time you may find yourself losing in raids due to it being 5 versus 20. And I did genuinely have a really fun time with this game's PvP system. I mean, a really fun time. This game's PvP is arguably some of the best we've seen in recent history, and probably the best PvP based game we've gotten in a very long time, probably since Deepwoken, honestly. Now on to the part everyone knew was coming. Exhibit B, the progression of TechyOP. Even though I consider TechyOP to be better than any other modern Bleach game released, yeah, I'm talking Reaper 2 and Project Magetsu and whatever that other terrible Bleach game is called.
I'm like, what do you say fuck me for?
TechyOP is better than each and every one of those games, but it does have its major downsides and flaws that, if not fixed, will kill the game in less than a month, I promise you. The game initially was built on being a closed community game, meaning most features in the game were meant to be included in a CC environment. You see this while grinding the game. The progression of TechyOP is absolutely abysmal. I'ma just be honest here. The issue with TechyOP's progression is just the fact that it isn't even hard, as well as being super time consuming, and honestly doesn't feel worth it unless you really enjoy the PvP in the game and really want to see in-game things such as Bankai, Full Res, and Full Standing. The progression has no levels and works in a grade system. When you enter the game, you can choose as a lost soul whether you want to be a Soul Reaper, Quincy, or Hollow. I chose Soul Reaper, but we will briefly talk about the other progression forms as well. When you start as Soul Reaper, you are teleported to the Roof Guide area where you're tasked with doing mission board quests to get from grade 5 to grade 4. This mission tasks you with fighting some Hollows, either a small one or a sort of large Hollow in a group of 2 or more if you are in a squad. I also want to mention that I solo progressed pretty much my entire way through the game as well. It is possible. I played on release when there was another way to gain XP. That was through purifying lost souls before they were able to choose that route. I basically won 5 boost progression to get to grade 3. But now that you are grade 3, you can pretty much go to Soul Society. In Soul Society, there are multiple squads you can join out of the 13 squads. Not every squad is created equal, but remember when I said the game wasn't level based? Well, the game is actually premium payout based, since your progression is locked behind a time limit. Now, what is the problem with this, you may ask? Well, a major issue with TechyOP's progression is that you're doing the same thing over and over again if you're not PvPing, which means that the real reason a time limit was put in the game was to stop people from complaining about completing the game too soon due to a lack of content. This time limit goes up to 12 hours at one point, where you have to wait 720 minutes in game just to rank up. I repeat, that is half a day just to rank up, which is, you guessed it, utterly absolutely insane. I just ended up auto-clicking for a majority of my progression to meet the time limit required for me to rank up, which I think is unacceptable. But back to grade 3 progression, which again consists of you doing the same mission board quest over again. But you also have to do your division duties as well, which is the minigame if you join Squad 12. This minigame is basically a glorified version of Project Slayer's target practice minigame, where you are tasked with clicking on a hollow PNG on your screen for about 20 seconds to 3 minutes depending on if you're playing solo or not. Not to mention the horrible music that plays every time you do this minigame, which might even drive you mentally insane during the process. Which brings me to another problem I have with this game. The progression, once you start to get far enough, starts to put semi-grades between the rank ups. This is just to extend the game even further. This wouldn't be a problem if you weren't doing the same thing over and over again. This is where I almost decided to quit the game, because I knew that TechyOP basically had nothing to offer but a half-baked experience that was going to be drawn out for no reason. But I kept playing just to see what would change after I got my Shikai. During my semi-grade 2 progression, I got to understand just how toxic the community was for this game. From the slurs created for each race in the game to the constant jumping from other players. Honestly, I got to really feel what it was like to slowly have my mental sanity stripped away from me bit by bit. It was only a matter of time before I cracked. So yeah, finally I was able to rank up from semi-grade 2 to grade 2, and with minor brain damage. Now that you are finally grade 2, you can finally fight your Shikai. I had confusion Shikai, so my fight was sort of difficult. Yeah, I know skill issue, but it took me about 15 tries to beat it. Honestly, it was very frustrating to fight since he would literally turn my screen upside down and teleport, but the rewarding feeling I got after beating it was pretty cool, I guess. But nonetheless, I finally had my Shikai. Now there is a boss event in each region, and the Soul Society boss is the gatekeeper dude. But unfortunately, the developers forgot to actually fix the boss before adding him to the game, since he just flops around all over the place, and therefore you can't really see when he attacks, making the boss god awful to fight. This has happened to me multiple times, by the way, which leads me to the point of this game being insanely unbalanced, to the point where the combat system sometimes doesn't even matter in fights, where you are constantly getting spammed by no cooldown moves that can't even be parried even if you try, since it's a 50-50 situation at the time. But back to the progression, I finally reached semi-grade 1. Granted, you will probably have a better experience with friends since it will be quicker, but you still have to wait an abnormally long time just to rank up. These systems obviously only work in a CC environment where information is shared through the players in a closed community setting. Things like captains of squads and features like purifying can't even be in the game, since there are too many people playing it and it just wouldn't work normally in a public environment. Like, the requirements for Bankai Res and Vote Standing are literally constantly changing, since the developers still think the game is in CC mode and are always gatekeeping these specific changes just to stop people from obtaining these forms. I understand, yes, not everyone is supposed to have these forms, but at least keep the requirements consistent and at least let the players know when you are changing things. Now we must briefly talk about hollow progression, which is the worst part of the game. When you spawn in as a lost soul, you press Ctrl K to become a hollow. Then you are spawned in as one of the worst models I've ever seen on a Roblox game in a long time. Once you kill enough hollows, you can transform into a Minos, which I've heard is some of the worst Minos experiences of all time, since you are walking around painfully slow and having to grind for 3 to 10 hours in order to finally become an Aju Cha, which almost might be worse than Project Migetsu if I'm not mistaken. Once you are finally done doing Minos Hell Grind, you can finally go to a Jukar. Now you have two options: either rip your mask off to become an Arankar, or progress further to becoming a Vastokar. Once a hollow reaches grade 2, they can finally get their partial res, in which they have to do an obby instead of fighting a Shikai boss like Soul Reapers. The obby is absolutely insane from what I've heard, with really stupid jumps towards the end. Once you die, which you're going to die, you have to grip at least one person in order to reset, which isn't that bad. Many people have felt this obby over and over again, which frustrates many people because we are playing a Bleach RPG, not Tower of Hell.
I know it's wrong!
And it's not even worth going all the way through Vasto progression unless you really like Vastos, because Shikais and Bankais and Quincy's are all stronger than Hollows in this game. So yeah, just another massive oversight from these developers. I feel so bad for Hollow players. You do all this grind just to not even be considered one of the strongest in the game. No, I don't want to hear, oh, it's canon. This is a Roblox video game, not Bleach the anime. Quincy grind is straightforward. You just do the same mission board quests over and over again until you max out all your overpowered Quincy skills. Not to mention, the game game has given certain CC players unobtainable advantages such as true versions of Vasto Lorde and Visor, while public players are stuck grinding for the weaker versions of these true forms. So now we must answer the question, is Type Soul the best Roblox Bleach game? I'd say out of all recent Bleach games, it is the best. I had the most fun in this game out of any other Bleach game released. The bar is very low, but Type Soul managed to beat out Project Mugetsu at least. But if I were to give it a score out of 10 compared to other Bleach games, I'd give it an 8 out of 10. If you really like the PvP, you will really like this game. If you don't like the PvP, you will hate this game since the PvE is some of the worst I've ever seen. But as I say in every video, if you guys enjoyed this video and you like some more content like this one, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.